All right, let's call to order the Select Board meeting for Monday, October 21st. We will begin with an agenda review. Are there any agenda items for which members of the Select Board would like to reorder the agenda? Okay, that's good. Announcements recognition, Rob.
Thank you. As is our practice, the second Select Board meeting is reserved for announcing milestones, staff milestones on the 5-year anniversary. We have 3 tonight. Amelia Talbert, a technical services librarian, has reached her 30-year milestone with the town. And Peter Appleton, also a technical services librarian, and Michael Altisario, police officer, has reached their 10-year milestone. And I'd like to thank them and give them special recognition for their service. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks to all of our employees and those who are long tenured. We appreciate it. Let me also just mention that appearing on the dais today, but I'm not going to partake, is a thank you note from the residents of Willow Spring Circle for the Verona sidewalk project. So Verona cookies, very appropriately. I'll pass these around. I'm not going to partake, but please. So
that's very cute.
Yes, it's very cute. Okay, we'll move now to public comment. This is the period of the agenda when the public is welcome to address the Select Board. We ask that one addresses issues not already scheduled on the agenda. We ask that individuals restrict their comments to 5 minutes, and questions will be directed to the chair of the Select Board. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comments? Nancy.
Good evening, Nancy Carter, Barrett Road, Hanover. I am here because I am a member of the Hanover Business Alliance, and I'd like you to consider putting on the agenda in the near future a change in our Saturday forgiveness of parking fees. It is customary in Hanover that we have been forgiving December Saturday parking fees, and I would like you to consider extending from November 15 through January 15. It captures part of the time that our students and of course their parents are still in town, and we hope opening their wallets to us, sharing with us. And the reason that I'm bringing it to you now is that I'm sure that you will have to run the numbers through either your parking division, your police department, or both. And so that's my request, that it come back in the agenda as a Saturday forgiveness of parking costs from November 15 to January 15. Thank you.
Nancy, any members of the Select Board have questions on that request?
Is that just in the garage or is that?
No, my implication is all over town.
Yeah, I think I think we need to have more information before we do that, because I think historically we've started that Saturday forgiveness, I think, on the Saturday after Black Friday, and I think most people who drive here are used to paying, in terms of if the target is students and their families, most people pay way more for parking in other locations than we pay here. And we have a deficit in our parking fund. So I think it's a resource that we have, and I don't think we should be giving it away lately. So I think before we make that move, I think we need to understand what the implications are.
Okay.
That's fair.
And I think that was part of Nancy's.
Yeah.
So Rob, that's something that the numbers could be run to frame it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Other public comments? David?
David Vincelette, 93 Lebanon Street, Hanover, New Hampshire. I have a duty to come here. I'm tired of coming, but I have a duty. I swore an oath to the Constitution to protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I want to apologize for losing my temper at the October 7th meeting. I'm sorry for those in the audience who were offended. I let down my parents and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I'll try not to let it happen again. Some people warned me that I might have been guilty of defamation for calling Mr. Houseman a Nazi, for restraining my Jewish wife's liberty for 25 and a half months. Defamation isn't a problem when you're telling the truth. I looked at Merriam-Webster's definition, and one of the definitions is one who is likened to a German Nazi, a harshly domineering, dictatorial, or intolerant person. I think Mr. Houseman fills the bill for retaliating against my family and holding us for 25 and a half months. It's pretty dictatorial. And Mr. Houseman has misled this board. He misled this board before he was even promoted to town manager. I asked the question, did you fence me into my property in 2016? It's been probably 6 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, whatever. It's been a long time since I asked the question. He deferred and said he would answer the question in writing. Mr. Houseman, instead of answering honestly, writes about 3 different issues I have with Hanover. In each case, he ignores responsibility and misstates the facts. The first claim is Hanover's use of crushed asphalt is in violation of state and federal law, which it is. He uses as grounds to defend himself the fact that in 2005, New Hampshire DES wrote a letter saying using asphalt waste on town roads is a permissible use of it. The problem is he doesn't tell you that under RSA 146, it's a crime to have asphalt waste enter state waters. Declaration of purpose. The purpose of this chapter is to cope with the problem of pollution from the spillage of or discharge of oil, recognizing the damage resulting to vegetation, marine, animal, and bird life from such pollution. It is the intent of this chapter to provide procedures that will expedite the cleanup of oil spillage, mitigate the adverse effects of oil discharges, encourage prevention measures, and provide financial assistance to victims of such discharge, and to encourage private organizations to assist in these efforts. Under the definitions of oil, it says any compound of oil from the distillation product. Oil means petroleum products and their byproducts of any kind and in any form, including but not limited to petroleum, fuel, sludge, crude oil, refuse, or oil mixed with waste, and all other liquid hydrocarbons regardless of specific variety, in which are used as motor fuel, lubricating oil, or any oil used for heating or processing. The term oil shall not include natural gas. Anyway, he doesn't mention that DES found asphalt waste in Mink Brook after I had complained about it, and that DES told Hanover that they had to change their pollution protocols. So he just left that out of his answer. My second question is Hanover violated Vincent's property rights by installing a fence between the properties located at 93 and 95 Lebanon Street and the Tansy Tract. The fact that he closed our driveway is obvious. It was the court's decision affirmed my option of opening my driveway. The reason it was confirmed that it was my right to open my driveway is because it's been my driveway for 40 years. He never had a right to close it. He just overlooks that fact. The third reason is the town has refused to maintain the roadway accessing the Tansy Tract and then select property. His misleading testimony here is the town does not maintain this driveway. It is not a public right-of-way. It is legally classified as a driveway. And he talks about my mother and I had signed an agreement that winter snow would be removed was our responsibility. But the deed requires the town to make its best efforts to prevent erosion. And this is obvious why it should be that way, because the deed requires police and fire protection of the buildings down there. Hanover has ignored major washouts and let walkers, runners, and public works deal with the problem. While we were restrained in 2016, 2017, the town did nothing to repair the road. For the sewer department needs that road for their work as well. They're supposed to have 24-hour access to the sewage line down near our property. So without maintaining the road, it's pretty hard to see how Hanover can do the maintenance of the road, because they're required to make their best efforts, how they can drive emergency vehicles down there when the road is washed out, and how they can please their sewer department making the road manageable. I have 5 minutes up yet?
5 minutes is, yep.
Anyway, I've been trying to get on the agenda. Hopefully the fact that he lied to you and all 3 of his answers give you something to think about.
Okay. We are going to have an overview of the fire department. So thank you, Mike and Josh, for coming. Do you want to sit at the table or what? Okay.
Yeah. Come on up.
Thank you for doing this. And just a little bit of context is that we have talked about the notion, and you'd be the second department to do this, to have departments come, divorce it a little bit from the budget cycle, because that's just way too much within a very short number of days, and then really help us to understand what it is that we can do to help you better, and also maybe think about what we can think about in terms of what constitutes good performance by the department. So what are some of the key indicators we should think about? Okay. So thank you.
So I'll introduce ourselves. My name is Michael Gilbert, the newly appointed fire chief about 4 months ago. With that said, I've been with the town. I just passed 26 years last month. So I was previously a firefighter, obviously captain for like 18 years, deputy chief for 3, acting chief for the last almost a year, and then for the last 4 months, I've been chief.
And I'm Josh Merriam, your new deputy fire chief. I've worked for the town since 2008 and I've served as a captain the last 8 years.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the department, what we have, our staffing, and then the deputy will talk more about our operations, our training, and prevention side of things. So to start, I'd like to thank the town manager, the board, and the select board, the taxpayers for the support that you give us. A lot of times we look at that as a financial support, but in this case, I'm looking at it as just the emotional support. The amount of times that citizens write us letters, emails, or things like that is very comforting to the staff. I think it makes them feel like they're welcome and needed, and they want to work harder at it. So, you know, it's been beneficial, I think, on the recruitment and retention side of things, that people want to come to Hanover because of the support we have. So thank everybody for that. It's been very beneficial that we can provide the service that we do to the town. To start, I'm going to talk about, we have 2 stations. Most of you got the tour of the main station, which is all of our full-time staff work out of. On Line Road, there we have 2 engines, our ladder truck or a tower, 2 ambulances. We have a boat, our Marine One, which we can use in the river and lakes. We have a trailer with 2 swiftwater boats for shallower areas of swiftwater. We have a water rescue trailer, which carries all of our swiftwater gear, ice rescue gear, and then our dive team. We have a tech rescue trailer which carries all of our rope rescue equipment, confined space below grade equipment. We have that because of Dartmouth College has a pretty elaborate underground piping or tunnels. And then our backcountry wilderness rescue equipment. We're fortunate to live in the Upper Valley. Most of this is being used because of everybody's outside either on the river or up in the woods. We have a side-by-side, Can-Am side-by-side that carries a forestry skid unit that allows us to get in the woods for brushing forest fires. It also has a place for a Stokes basket so we can go in the woods or on trails and retrieve people that have been injured. It's been used 3 times that I know this year, twice in Pine Park and once in Lyme near the skiway. So it's a very beneficial tool there. We have a hazmat trailer, which is our spill response trailer. It's a small trailer that basically carries everything that we need for any kind of gas or oil spill. Anything like true, like hazmat would involve the Western hazmat team. And then we have 2 pickup trucks that basically tow all the trailers. That's at the main station. The other station in Etna on the Etna Road has 1 engine. We have a second engine that's there right now, but it's out of service and we're in the process of selling it as part of Chief McMillan's downsizing our fleet. And then we have a trailer that carries river boom, and basically the river boom is there to, if we had some sort of oil or gas spill in waterway, we can use it to contain. It doesn't absorb, it just contains it. We've used it twice, once on the river when Corral had an oil leak that got down the river a couple summers ago, and then this past summer it was in Lake Maury for a boat that sank and dumped all its gas, so we just put the boom on and it kind of contains it. As far as staffing, so we have 23 full-time staff, chief, deputy chief fire marshal, our administrative assistant, and then we have 4 shifts of 5 members each, captain, the lieutenant, and 3 firefighters on each shift. The minimum medical is advanced EMT, and each shift has 2 paramedics. We don't always guarantee a paramedic on every call, but we try to use them when it's most needed. As far as call members, we have 5 call members that belong to the Hanover station. We do most of the calls, so they come in for the bigger calls, and sometimes if we need extra help for coverage, they'll come in. And then at the Etna station, we have 5 call members out there. The Etna station responds to any fire or medical call in the Etna district, along with the full-time staff downtown. So as far as another big thing with us is run stats. So I'm going to look at run stats for fiscal year 23-24. So in that year, we did 2,276 calls. Breaking that out, 1,208 of those were medical calls, and 1,068 of those were fire calls. So about 53% of our calls are medical, which is a little bit off of the national average. Nationally, about 64% of fire departments is medical calls. I attribute that to, I think because of the college, we have so many fire alarms in town, and I'll talk about those stats in a minute, that we go to a lot of fire alarms in town, which kind of gets us closer to that 53%. Of those fire calls, 18 of them were fires. Those include building fires, grass and brush, and car fires. And then, again, like I said, for the college, 496 fire alarm or sprinkler activations we did in that year. So mutual aid, we provided mutual aid 167 times. Most of those are going to be with the ambulance, but probably about 25% is for fire response. 26 times Hanover requested mutual aid. 6 of those were for fires, and 20 of those were for an ambulance, either for a third call or a call that took a lot of ambulances. And then we've always had the question before, you know, how much does the college affect our call volume? I can't confidently say, like, we did 2,000 calls, because I can't search by Dartmouth College, I can search by address or type of call, but I think just from me looking at it and kind of, I'll explain how, I think, I'm going to break it up between medical and fire. So I think Dartmouth College creates about 20 to 30% of our call volume for medical is the Dartmouth College. That's just kind of me listening to the calls, but I also look at it as a per capita. So this is round math, easy math. So 11, 12,000 permanent residents. The college has between 4,000 and 5,000 students. About 25% of that population. They are healthier, have less medical issues, but they also have some behaviors that create some calls for us also. So I think somewhere in that 20 to 30% of the calls are medical that Dartmouth College creates. As far as fire calls, I think it's going to be a little closer to the 40 to 50%. Again, looking at the fire alarms, the 469 fire alarms we did last year, not all of them are Dartmouth College. We have a lot of residential structures that have fire alarms in them also. But I think that kind of goes along with it. So I think it's probably 40 to 50% of our fire calls are generated because of the campus. So that's kind of statistically that 23, 24. I think that's been the average that we counted over the last couple of years with a little bit of increase every year. With that, I'll let the deputy talk about operations.
Sure. So the chief hit on quite a bit what I was going to chat about with operations, but just to cover a couple of things that wasn't mentioned. So our personnel work 24-hour shifts. They average a 42-hour work week. And something that's unique to our department and really to the region, we're a small community, but we sort of have some city issues with construction, the type of special operations that we offer and frankly need to be involved in order to serve the public. So we are recalling our personnel off duty pretty much on a daily basis in an effort to maintain that minimum staffing level. The chief mentioned the equipment that we have, so just specifically speaking about one of our engines is an ALS engine, so how we sort of play the game, if you will, as calls come in, it's not uncommon for us to run multiple calls. I think we actually experienced that when you folks were visiting us. So one of our engines is an advanced life support engine. It carries a cardiac monitor, cardiac drugs, pain medication. So we kind of have to spread our equipment out in order to cover all of our bases throughout the day. Do you have any questions about the operations of the department?
I guess to touch on that, Josh had talked about our minimum staffing. So I think probably most of you know, but a little bit of history about our staffing. So when I first came here, we had 4 on a shift, and we had minimum staff at 3. ISO came in and did an evaluation, and they surveyed a certain amount of our calls and said, any fire response that doesn't include 4 people in at least 1 truck, we didn't respond at all. So they were looking at a townwide ISO rating of 10. So we applied for an ISO grant, got additional staff for each shift. So now we have 5 on, minimum of 4. And like the deputy was saying, we try to maintain that with callbacks. So if the 2 ambulance goes out with there's 4 on, we would call 2 people to maintain that 4 for our ISO rating. Currently, when 10 or 15 years ago, I think we were rating a 4.7, so we're split downtown and Etna. And currently, because of their staffing, and then we did some rural water drills, our ISO rating is a 3.3Y. So a significant drop that we've done in the last 10 or 15 years.
For those not familiar with ISO ratings, can you just explain the scale?
So ISO is a third-party evaluator that comes in and looks at the fire department, looks at staffing, hydrants, response times, how we can maintain water supply, and they set insurance ratings. So monthly is anytime you get new insurance, the insurance company calls us and asks us how close the residence is to a fire station, and then the closest water supply, and they always ask us what our ISO rating is, of the 3.3.1.
And when we went through this years ago, when, as Chief was saying, it is more expensive for the town to outlay this money. However, it is the upside to it is that the homeowners, theoretically at least, should see lower home insurance rates. So that's why we went, as the chief said, for this.
And
I have a question. Josh, you said, I'm a little confused. 42-hour work week was that people are doing on average, or what is a work week? Is it 40 hours? Is it?
It's 42. It's hard to explain, but
Okay.
The easiest way to break it down would be it's a 24-hour working period followed by 48 hours off, and then another 24-hour working period.
Okay.
So it's an average over the course of
8 days. So they have 1 on, 2 off, 1 on, 4 off. So they do an 8-day work week.
Okay.
So over 8 weeks, it averages out to be 42 hours a week. So there's some weeks they work 48 hours a week, and there's other weeks they work 24 hours a week, and the average is 42 over 8 weeks. So it is a weird schedule, a weird thing for time cards.
To follow up on the ratings, is the idea that the ratings went down because our staffing is challenged?
The lower the number, the better the rate.
Okay,
Yes.
so our
I'm
rating
sorry.
is down, and then that is a good thing.
Correct.
All right.
So yeah, we
There
were
we go.
4.7, we're 3.3 now, 3Y.
Okay,
Like places like Las Vegas is an ISO rating of 1. And like Alex was saying, it's basically just, it lowers the insurance rating. We're not saving them on the tax side, but we can save them on the insurance side.
I was curious, has anything changed in your work with regard to like climate change? Like, do you see any?
Yeah, I think I can probably hit on that a little bit with our training. So certainly, I mean, significant weather events are becoming more frequent. I mean, if you watch the news and or don't live under a rock, you know see that happening. So on the not supervisor side, but maybe management side, emergency management side, I think we're seeing more training pushed out through FEMA on how to address and respond and mitigate weather-related emergencies. I've only been in this position for 6 weeks, but over the course of my career in the fire service, having so many firefighters trained in swiftwater rescue, for example, that really has sort of become a staple for every department now. And then, becoming proficient with all of the technical tools that are required as part of that as well. So I think significant flooding and flash flooding events, I'm not a meteorologist, but it seems to be happening more frequently.
And we're not, I think, you're kind of thinking, would we see it on like the forest fire, brush fire side of things? In New England, not yet. We haven't seen it there. It's more on these flooding events. And, Vermont, I don't know if they're stopping it from hitting Hanover, but, they've been hit hard this past couple summers. And there's nothing that's saying that those couldn't make it there. I think we've just been fortunate. The Connecticut River stops.
right. Does it impact wind? Are you responding to like wind events as well, or?
We definitely have a
Or is it
handful
not?
of significant weather events within the community every year, I would say.
Yeah, last year, emergency management wise, which affects all the
Yeah.
resources in town, we had 2 snow events that there was wind and snow that caused trees and wires down and roof damage. And then flooding, was it last summer or 2 summers ago, maybe for Stevens Road, that area, there was some, and those aren't even hurricanes or tornadoes, those are thunderstorms that just seem to be worse and very isolated. So we're seeing more of that. I mean, we do have the support of the state emergency management and hopefully FEMA reimbursement, but a lot of times the county doesn't meet the threshold, so we don't get reimbursement.
Got it.
Just two questions. So Aetna is just call firefighters, right?
It is paid on call. Anytime there's a call there, the downtown responds also, so they supplement. So if for some reason they don't we still have either an engine or ambulance responding to the call.
Gotcha. And can you just talk a little bit about the call firefighter program, like volunteers and how that works?
I'm sure like any of the committees in town, the volunteer system is dying out. People don't have the time for it. I will say in the last 10 or 15 years, I don't think we've engaged and prepared our call members as much. And one of the things I've done is implemented trying to get training. Our staff, we do it during the day, during the week. Call people can't do that, so we tried to do it in the evening. It didn't work and it just kind of fell apart. So last month I just implemented that the call members can come in downtown at any time that they want for 2 hours a month and get training. And we have a training program that they can come in, work with the full-time staff and get trained on different topics. We have members that have been here a while and can't drive trucks. So trying to get them in that. So I think there's a value in them to supplement us when we can't get people, because it's one of the concerns I have is we're talking about, having callbacks and bringing people back to maintain the 4 on the station. It's harder and harder. People have busy lives, so can we utilize the call people? They need to be trained to at least a minimum standard, but can we utilize them? So we require our call firefighters to be at least firefighter 1. There's 3 levels: Fire 1, Fire 2, and Fire 3. Most of our staff full-time is firefighter 3. And then if they want to do the medical side, most of them are EMTs that do it. So
How long does it take to become firefighter 1?
the fire academy is changing. It would be, to do a firefighter 1 program, it could be 4 to 5 months, doing like 2 evenings a week and a Saturday. They just implemented a program, it's called On Your Time Training, where you can do all the didactic online and go to any state instructor, which is a few of us that are in the fire station, and do the practical and get signed off. So not that structured program like we've always offered at the fire academy. I've been a staff instructor at the fire academy since 1990. So they're trying to find ways to get the training that fits call firefighters. In New Hampshire, to be full-time, the minimum level for firefighter is firefighter 2.
So if you guys want firefighter 1 volunteers, how do like if there's somebody who was really dying to be a firefighter and like get their foot, anyway, if they would like to be a firefighter, how would they do that? They would just call one of you guys or come down and...
The last couple, since I became chief, I probably had 5 or 6 people call asking, which is good. Most of them are Dartmouth students, and I tend to shy away from them because there is a cost to that, and it takes a while to get them trained, and by then they leave. But I've had some local people. We put them on, and then the academy does offer classes throughout the state, but it could be travel, it could be time. So we have one of our call members that just joined. He's going to do the time training. He's done all the online didactic, and he's coming in every week and doing the practical sessions. So we're hoping, he's kind of my guinea pig to see how that works, but it's one of the programs I want to do is to bring in call members, maybe in the Upper Valley, train them, know them, so when we have a hiring process that somebody internal can bring up. Back when I got hired, there was a couple hundred people that I tested with to get hired here. The firefighters we just hired, we had 17 applicants, and 5 of them were, we interviewed because they had the qualifications. And my concern is, how do we hire and onboard somebody that has little to no training? At that point in time, they can't ride as a 4th, they're riding as a 5th, and then it's just eating up overtime. So one of the things I'm looking at is doing this internal training with some local people. One, they're local, they live here. 2, we can train them, get them trained to our level, and then when we hire, look at them to hire internally, and we get to know them to make sure they're the right person.
Great, thanks.
I just had a question about, you mentioned that one of your engines has the advanced life support, like with over 1,000 medical calls, how frequently is that engine needed, 2 calls at once?
I don't have specific numbers.
Well, just, again, 23, 24, not this, we had 20 times we had mutual aid ambulances in town. So potentially, we could have, if we had a crew of 4 on 2 ambulances without 2 people, we may have had nobody here, and 11 at Hartford covered it, but sometimes with coverage, we might have 1 or 2. The engine does medical care until those. Right?
So the mutual aid medical ones are often because they're equipped with more stuff, or you don't have 2 engines with.
Yeah, and I think part of that is not captured there. So a still alarm response within the community, so a fire alarm activation or a sprinkler alarm in town. Just for example, in the hydrant district, would receive the tower and an engine together. Frequently, we will take in a second call, a medical call, and that's when we rely on our company officers to make a decision on how to split. So if the tower's on scene and is able to deal with the situation at hand, they'll split the engine to first respond to that medical call. They have all of the equipment they need to get started and can request a mutual aid ambulance if it's necessary. So we're that's just an example of how we're constantly playing that back and forth.
On the medical call, though, an ambulance would go.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
And the engine with medical is a plus.
Correct.
And then we also call code, so through 911, they code every call. It's either an Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, or Echo. Alpha being minor, Echo level is a cardiac arrest. So depending on how that comes in, an Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, we send an ambulance with 2 people. A Delta and Echo level gets the engine also because we need more staffing. So 911, calling 911 is important because it gives us the resources to determine how many the resources we need.
Are there parts of Hanover where our neighbors are looking at them as, there might be parts where Lebanon or maybe Canaan or where the first responses in adjacent town?
Yeah, we have agreements. So in Hanover, on the back side of Grafton Turnpike, there's a small section there that are year-round homes. But we actually have an agreement that Canaan goes automatically. We will also respond in case they can't turn out, or if it's an ALS call, our paramedic will go to assist because Canaan doesn't always have a paramedic on. There's also, because we also cover Lyme and Norwich, we're contracted with them to transport the backside of Tigertown Road in Norwich. Hartford goes automatically to that. So I think, I think we probably could do more of it, but a lot of the backside of Moose Mountain, we have either Canaan or Enfield going. We'll always start to respond just to make sure somebody gets there, but they're certainly close. There's been fires on the backside of that Goss Road that Hanover's the last department there, just because of the geographical.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. I think, you look at like,
But with mutual aid, it's great. Right.
mutual aid is key. If you look out west where they do more of a county-based fire service, they put stations where the fact that Sachem Village, we don't go to, but Lebanon goes to, it's right there.
Yeah.
It's those boundaries don't always make sense.
Thank you.
Terrific. Good.
Can you touch on how Lebanon, Hanover, and Hartford work together?
Sure. So just one last thing on the operations side of the business. So our captains, I think it's worth noting that our captains they function like battalion chiefs in a large city department. They each have their own area of responsibility to just ensure the day-to-day operation continues. So we have a captain that oversees communications and building maintenance, one that oversees fleet maintenance, one that oversees our training, and then one that oversees our emergency medical services. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The collaboration with our department, Lebanon and Hartford, really has grown over the last 10 years. And I wanted to mention that on the training side of things. So annually, we're conducting joint drills with those departments. It rotates within the different communities. So this week, out on Greensboro Road, we're hosting a rescue systems drill where Hartford and Lebanon are coming in. Crews are going to be working on vehicle stabilization, extrication, and then trauma care. And so Lebanon's actually bringing a high fidelity simulation mannequin in that provides like real-time feedback to EMS providers. Cool. So it's pretty interactive, and it's pretty neat to watch that joint collaboration on some of these
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning.
So they will be out there.
Darn, the day job gets him away. These are fun stuff.
We're also, and this goes back, I would say probably 10 years, conducting annual live fire training at the New Hampshire Fire Academy in Concord. So we provide 8 hours a year of facilities training, which is in that live fire environment. And the neat thing about that is, so we do have those automatic aid agreements for the report of a building fire, and within our community, we receive aid from Lebanon and Hartford automatically. Their shift schedule lines up with ours, so our A shift works with the same A shift in Lebanon and the same A shift in Hartford. So we bring those 3 shifts together, we put them on the fire ground, give them scenarios, and they respond in like they're actually going to work. So we try to really coordinate this so that when it's game time, they've already had that practice underneath their belt. So that's something that I'm proud of for our department. We're unique. When we go to the academy, we often hear from instructors that wish that their communities were doing that type of training together. So I think that's a kudos to the department. Just alongside the training, there were a couple of highlights. I promised I wouldn't get too much into the weeds, but there are a couple of things that I did want to share. So we have a firefighter currently at the National Fire Academy in Maryland. He's completing a 6-day leadership and supervision course that's funded by FEMA. They pay for training, they pay for lodging. The department picks up a meal ticket. It's a big commitment from the employee, firefighter Freda. But we've had other members of our department go down there. I just think that's a pretty unique one to highlight. We're going to be onboarding a new firefighter in the upcoming few weeks. They'll complete a 2-week in-house training academy and then be assigned to their shift, where they'll have a 1-year probationary period and finish out everything else that needs to be done. Am I missing anything on the training side of things?
And I think we are unique. Hanover, Lebanon, and Hartford, we have 5 on, Hartford has 6 on. Lebanon has 6, 7, depending on what's going on. None of us can do any of these large fires or technical rescue by ourselves, so we almost operate as one fire department with 3 different stations. And these quarterly drills that Deputy Chief Merriam had a lot to do with setting up, quarterly we train with them, and it's been, and we're writing policies the same, so we do it the same. I think it's very beneficial to the Upper Valley. Because of that, I think, on the technical rescue side of things, volunteers, like I was saying, are not just in Hanover, all departments seem to be struggling. So, we're getting called to a lot of technical rescues outside of Hanover, which as a taxpayer could seem bad, but it gives them a lot of good experience and skill that when they have issues here, they're well prepared. We went to Haverhill this spring for a glider in a tree, mine rescue in Corinth a couple of years ago.
Scary.
So a guy fell 100 feet down the mine shaft. We went up there in the middle of the night and got him. Swiftwater, our team went to Vermont this summer. So we're getting called, which it doesn't directly benefit Hanover, other than the experience they're getting. We can't reproduce, even as good as our training is, we can't reproduce.
And I think a lot of the training topics, so our personnel are constantly engaged in training, and we have firefighter Schweitzer is currently working on delivering an in-service training for each shift, where they're using the tower as a rigging platform to access simulating accessing workers that are located below grade. So we obviously recognize that Hanover's under significant construction. We have to pre-plan these events because we're the ones having to mitigate it. So just that constant risk assessment going on within the community is happening, and the personnel at the department are working to make sure that they're proficient and ready. So
one of our bigger risk assessments we did is obviously water. The Connecticut River is a great resource and used heavily because that's why we have a dive team, ice rescue and things like that. I'll have a whole trailer dedicated to that. So it's a great tool. It's a great resource for the Upper Valley, but it's also a risk for us that we have to deal with.
So the select board accepted 2 vehicle donations, I think, at the last meeting. Can you want to tell us what happens to those?
Sure. So they're currently located at the DPW's property on Greensboro Road. Those vehicles will be utilized just practicing different rescue techniques, stabilizing the vehicle. We have high pressure airbags to lift heavy objects off of a victim being pinned, and then utilizing our hydraulic jaws of life tools to gain access to patients. So all of that will be happening out there, and we're sharing that with our partners too, because that's it's hard to come by to have those to have vehicles available to train on. So,
and that's part of the bus donation we got a while ago. So this week there's going to be a car into the bus, and they're going to have to figure out how to get the victim out of it. So
Terrific.
You guys did a great job today with our training.
yeah.
So we had 5 firefighters come over in the back parking lot of Lou's. They have a fire simulator that actually catches fire, and we had 15 people go through and use a fire extinguisher, put the fire out, did a bunch of training. It was awesome.
yeah, so it's a fire extinguisher prop. It's propane fed. It's what's controlled. The college has one, but it's a screen that's digital. This is, I think it's a little more realistic, but we can't do it inside, so it doesn't help us there. But it's a good tool, and we do offer it to quite a few businesses. And it's just, again, it's like CPR AD. I think it's just another tool that we need to train our community on.
That's cool.
Terrific.
Yeah.
I didn't know that happened. That's really cool.
Got some good pictures.
Thank you.
So Chief, Deputy Chief, thank you so much. Was there any other questions?
Can you touch on permitting?
Permitting. I would like to touch on I would not like to touch on specifically just in general.
Place of assembly,
Sure.
Building permits.
So I'm being brought up to speed on permitting in the town of Hanover, and I'm responsible for conducting the place of assembly permit inspections, school nursery inspections, tent inspections. Most of those are on campus, and learning the iWorks system, which is used in planning and zoning and interfacing with Beth Regard in that office, Ryan Burkowski, and code enforcement. So it is a lot to take in, but it's going pretty well. This is a busy month for us as we visit all the Greek housing, the restaurants. Those inspections occur twice a year, so we're doing that. And we're in tent season right now, that's what I'm figuring out, so.
Tent and,
Tent season.
and homecoming.
Outdoor activity permits are fine.
Wait till the spring.
I did have one other thing I just wanted to hit on here, if that's all right. So the chief asked me to talk briefly about fire prevention, and I'll save all the notes for a later date. But I wanted to give a shout out to firefighter LaHaye, who organized visiting the Ray School for fire prevention. We have not been in our schools since COVID 2019. Kevin organized a day of fire prevention. We contacted almost 500 children. They ate lunch with the kids. It was awesome. We had an in with first grade teacher Beth Whitehair, whose husband used to work with us, so that was super
And his son
helpful.
works for us.
But I received a lot of awesome feedback, and I know our administration is really looking forward to increasing our community engagement. So DHMC's Division of EMS, one of their strategic goals for this year is to push out more of the Take 10 CPR training, the compressions only CPR training. We were really the poster child for that pre-COVID, and we're the first department to adopt it and get out in the community. COVID happened and everything sort of stopped. So these are some of the programs that we're looking to fire back up and get involved with. So I'm excited about it, but the school thing was a great success, and we received a lot of good feedback. So
The Take 10 thing is pretty cool. I just
Yeah.
started thinking, singing Staying Alive in my head.
yeah, for sure. And it's
You know,
part of
kids, that most kids don't understand that.
I know, but I remember it.
Who are the Bee Gees?
Who are the
part
Bee
of
Gees?
that- It's part of the risk reduction model, right? So like
That's
we can
great.
have the highest trained staff, we can have the best equipment in the world, but you really need to couple it with the education of the community so that when you have that event on your main street, that somebody's stepping into action and, that just increasing your survivability and all that. So it's exciting stuff, and I'm glad that we're.
And we're definitely seeing, the cardiac arrest saves, and it's because of bystander CPR and AEDs. This town is littered with AEDs, and it's making a difference. When I first came here, I can't remember a cardiac arrest, and we're about to have our banquet. We're going to recognize 3 next weekend, so it's nice. It's good.
Oh my gosh, I know a lot of the folks you've saved, yes.
Yes, you do.
I take care of a lot of the folks you've saved,
Yeah.
Yep.
and you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all that you do for the community, for keeping us safe.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thanks for
Sorry,
spending time with us this evening.
Yes, it's going to talk about the fire department. We go all night, so.
Well, it's good to have you here tonight instead of like on a cold February night where
Yeah.
there's like 10 other departments that we have to listen to. So it's really, thank you for
We
this, and
appreciate
thank you for taking the time to show us around.
We appreciate your
Couple
support and
months.
being visible at the department the other day for a tour. That was our staff, that was a first for them, and so it's an important part of serving the community is to know your community leaders, and
It goes along with that support that makes a big difference with the staff, so. And not just
That's
us,
great.
it's from all departments, so. Thank you.
Thanks.
We had fun too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I still haven't been up in the ladder truck.
Darn it.
Tower. Well, it's a big ladder.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Good night. Thanks for coming in.
ZBB,
Zero-based budget.
is that what's on the agenda next? I think so.
I just wanted to briefly touch on it to let you know that we're kicking off our budget cycle. And we've met with police, fire, and parking. We're meeting with Parks and Rec, Public Works, and the HOW this week. And the goal is to sort of start with a zero-based budget. I shouldn't say that we're starting with zero because there's a lot of things that are already baked in. Your union contracts, your wages, your benefits all get transferred forward. But the goal is to really look at our mission statement by department by department, try to figure out whether there's been mission creep or really things outside of our scope, rethink what we're doing for the community specifically. If there are items that should be funded, we'll fund them. But the goal here is really to start from zero and work our way forward. I know I got some feedback from Jenny on the terminology issues, and happy to work on it. The framework here is really for your benefit to say, here's where we're going, what do you think? Does this make sense to you? What you should know is that Ellen has created a baseline spreadsheet for every department. So they're working from that, and it's a plug-and-play program for us. So while it will be an additional lift, it's not a huge, additional time for most departments that are primarily salary and benefits. I will phrase it in that way because I think Pete in particular will have some issues that we're going to walk through on Thursday. Public Works.
Is the idea around like staffing and labor that it's grouped within these activities, or is it just where those are two different buckets and we're dealing with like the 25% or 20 to 25%?
I think we're looking at a whole list, all of it, and then trying to tease out. So I'll use examples of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
We actually we did meet with Parks and Rec on Thursday. It's all blurring together. The conversation we had with Parks and Rec centered on whether or not 7th and 8th grade sports goes to the school district and how that impacts.
That was like music to my ears.
And how that impacts staffing and whether or not we could use that to ensure that we have continuity in our Parks and Rec staff rather than, these gaps in critical OST, out of school time and CAST programs.
Yeah.
And my school district and Parks and Rec are meeting, I think, every 2 weeks right now, having these conversations and trying to figure out how we draw the line. That's part of our strategy is to really think about how we address staffing needs and allocate resources in a very targeted way that ensures we are successful in the programs we offer, rather than trying to offer things that don't have the staffing to provide it. And that's Parks and Rec specific.
You mentioned the mission statement is by department. Is this?
Yeah. So I think each one of them has, if they don't, we're going to work on having a mission statement. But it's really trying to figure out, the idea of mission creep is, and I don't want to target specific projects, but I think we've seen a shift in our Parks and Rec programming where we now have a program events coordinator, which is a change. And while I think it's great, we want to make sure it's baked into the mission so that we're supporting it if that's what we want as a part of our department. Rather than things that don't fit within the framework of Parks and Rec and don't fall within their mission statement, just floating out there with something part of our budget cycle. And the events that go along with the planning that she does, they're all great. And we either need to figure out a way to bake it into the mission of Parks and Rec or figure out a different way to approach it.
Since we're picking on Parks and Rec in a nice way, I really think we should change the name of the department to something more descriptive of what they're actually doing, or eliminate a lot of their services. Meaning, get into your mission. I'm not in favor of the latter. I'm certainly in favor of the former.
This may take a little time. My focus here is really to launch the budget process with the hopes of getting staff the opportunity to really dive into it deeply and then meet with the town manager and finance director in December and start meeting with you in January so that it doesn't seem like it's all compressed at the end of March.
You know how I feel about 7th and 8th grade and
Yes.
kind of being inclusive and fair to families and encouraging athletics or team sports in our 7th and 8th grade so parents don't have to jump out of work or their kids can't do the sport because there's no transportation, and it's Parks and Rec in this town we haven't supported it in that regard, and it feels like the school is a good place
Yep.
to be offering this. I am happy as a select board member to support this effort. So if there's a role for the select board to be, I love the fact that the school district and Parks and Rec are meeting every 2 weeks, but if there's anything that can be done from this board, I have no capacity, but I will make it because it's something that since my kids were in school, I felt really strongly about. And, you know, I've talked to John and others for years, so.
I think that John and Parks and Rec acknowledges that school-related sports through Parks and Rec places the kids in Hanover at a disadvantage, from transportation to coaching to uniforms to everything else, and to the frequency of practice and the availability of game time, and
roughing and scheduling,
right, yeah.
and we could go on.
Yeah,
right?
so the opportunity to move this back to the school district, and my understanding is it's been 40 plus years since the school district offered sports at the school,
Richmond School, yeah.
Before I was there. That would be in, I don't remember what.
Yeah,
John may have said 50 years, but I can't.
No, it's been a long time because Hank Tenney.
In the early 70s.
Yeah. So the opportunity to have the school district bring that back on board, and that allows us to have a different conversation about, you know, the 5th and 6th grade sports and where we host them and how we have access to school facilities and what our costs are. Obviously, you know, we're paying the school to use their facilities. We have limited access at certain times, so this would allow us to shift everything to the Ray School, and especially in the winter time, and have better control and better management of the system.
I know this, what you didn't want this to be a discussion of.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
I know.
But it's good to know what's going on when it comes up, because people ask us about this stuff, so, thank you.
And that's been brewing for years.
And years.
Yeah.
Decades.
Years and years, yeah.
40.
I know that's just one, that's one activity, and what you're talking about is very much in line with what Joanna's saying about increasing inclusivity and equity, which aligns very much with our new master plan, and which leads me to ask how much of the guidance to the departments and how much of the criteria framing and the prioritization are sort of deeply engaged with the master plan.
So my instructions to them, and I can clean this up, add a paragraph in here to make sure that it leads with the master plan. Each one of them has the implementation matrix by department. Each one of them has the document as digitally. And the goal here is to try to bake everything into the process into the master plan framework. It may take us a little time. You know, they need to, we're taking steps, and I think we're making progress. Will it be 100% successful for my deadline of December 15th? I doubt it, but we're working hard at it.
I think that's great. I think it's really, and I concur with you, Jenny, that, you know, we spent a lot of time doing this sustainability master plan, and there's whole chapters on, you know, all of these subjects, and it's great that you gave out the matrix and we can like work from the same, play music from the same score.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Joanna said. To the extent you need select board assistance, I'm happy.
Thank you.
And thank you for a new approach to budgeting and taking a fresh look. I think that's important to do every once in a while. This seems like a good time to do it.
We might as well. No, I, you know, Ellen has been very supportive, and, you know, we have sat together since August, the select board retreat, and I like to say we're reading the tea leaves of the select board and trying to figure out how we can best address the comments and feedback that we're getting from the select board, and we feel this approach helps us get there.
Terrific, thank you. The Healthtrust insurance rate increase discussion
Sure.
might be short.
The underlying question is, what's the cost?
Yes.
In rough numbers, we estimate the increase in our contribution to the health trust of about $300,000.
So it's
The town.
10.2%
Yeah.
is about $300,000, okay. And I think in past years, this has been characterized as a not to exceed, but this year it's
It's a fixed rate.
just, it is what it is,
Yeah.
okay.
And since our rate is based on the, I've struggled my notes here. The Access Blue AB 20 plan,
Yep,
we can calculate that. And rough numbers, based on the current, our contribution, it's about 300,000 increase.
Wow.
okay.
We'll have that number refined. We'll have an agreement next week or this week from the Healthtrust or a formal submittal of the numbers, but that is a fixed number at this point.
Does it apply to fire as well?
It does. Our baseline, so the town offers, the point system we base everything on is the Access Blue AB 20. And the staff provides 15% match. So 85% town paid for two-person plan.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Anything else on healthcare insurance?
I will say this is going to be an issue that we continue to struggle with, and it is not unique to Hanover. I will say that what I'm hearing from Lebanon is they're shell-shocked. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I understand they went to the high deductible plan, and that number went up pretty significantly. The access point, yeah.
How much did that go up?
21%.
Was that the 21, the high deductible was the 21%?
Yeah, I think it was the
The
point of
names were
service.
confusing to me.
Yeah, the point of service is a higher deductible, but
Oh my
you
God.
know,
So the high deductible plan cost less but went up more. Yeah. So any savings that
You might have
the
had,
city might have thought they were getting from
again,
offering it.
I just want to,
last year.
I didn't get this directly from the city. I got it secondhand while attending a nonprofit board meeting for Advanced Transit discussing their health insurance conundrum right now.
yeah, it's
So,
hitting everyone.
This is not
Hitting.
unique to municipalities.
No,
I mean, it's every year in the last 3 or 4 years, it's just been like 3, 4, 5 times inflation.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Crazy country,
Okay.
crazy.
Okay. Select Board 2025 schedule, you put in the various months, thank you.
So I did have a question, because when we get to February, it's like a normal month. There aren't like 3 back-to-back budget meetings.
that's the plan. I want to approach it very differently. I think there's merit in having dialogue about the budget with the departments and try to figure out how we can meter that out over, my perspective is that town hall, for example, and some of the other small departments should be able to present in January and have a conversation with the board about their budget then. So that gives us February and early March to get everything else done.
Great.
So yeah, looking at January, the budget meeting, I see January 6th, 27, that's the start of the budget meetings?
Yes.
Is January, okay. And then in March, we wrap it up and have the actual hearing to adopt it, looks like March 24th.
Yes, and there's some interesting challenges with moving that date up because there's a petition window for submittal of warrant articles, budget warrant articles, that doesn't close until that day. So we were trying to figure out how to navigate that without forcing you to come back. But we may actually want to have a conversation about if we have the ability to adopt a formal budget early, acknowledging that there is a risk that we have to come back and amend it with a petition, we can.
Okay. Questions from the select board on the calendar? Questions, any other comments? Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I do think that, I mean, it makes sense first and third Mondays, but sometimes we may need to adjust. I mean, sometimes in the past, we've had to do that because of people's holidays and stuff like that. So just, I mean, this looks good to me now, but, you know, next summer it might be like, yeah, that's not gonna work, so.
Signing in stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that March is when I normally try to take a vacation. Michelle's off, so that's also prime budget season.
Is that the first week of March? Yeah.
No, she has 2.5 weeks off in March,
Yep.
so it's typically the second and third. So it does run into some issues for us, but we'll see. Maybe she wants to vacation in Hanover.
Yeah, because March is so lovely.
The ski trails going?
It will be NCAA's.
It'll be, yeah, when are NCAA's?
March.
I know that. Okay.
So
Thank
there
you.
is one other budget-related matter if we're ready, if we're going to move on to E, and that is Ellen did send me an update that she wanted me to share with you as it relates to tax rate setting process. Our auditors have submitted the MS 535, which is the financial report of the budget ending 6/30/24. This report provides the beginning of unassigned fund balance for FY25, which will become part of the MS 434, estimated revenues for fiscal year 25. We're waiting for the rooms and meals tax distribution, and when they're completed, we'll file the MS 434. Once approved by DRA, we'll put the summaries, and the MS 535 will be ready for select board signing at the November 4th meeting.
Okay.
We're also monitoring the school as it relates to input into the process.
Monitoring the school, okay.
So the contributions, our expenses,
Yep,
go into the process.
okay.
So
So the unassigned fund balance we'll hear about on November 4th.
yes,
Okay.
we'll be signing documentation so we can file paperwork after November 4th.
Terrific. Any other questions on the calendar before we move on to select board retreat review and key results update? Seeing none, let's move on. Really this was, Rob, I believe this was largely, if not entirely, your effort at summarizing the meeting. This was late August, and so apologies for it. It's really on it's on me that this is a little bit late coming out, but I think we're in a good place now, actually, with your permanent appointment to move forward on these. So the goal would be to have some actionable items in the context of some broader objectives for the November 4th meeting. This is a step in that direction. This is a summary, and actually we need to submit this as minutes, because I don't think we actually have submitted minutes for the meeting, so this will constitute minutes. So between now and November 4th, if any of you want to amend any of this, and Jenny's offered some comments, so thank you. Please read through. We will finalize with any additions that you might have at the next meeting as essentially minutes, and then we'll also consider a first look, and maybe the only look, but we'll talk about it at specific objectives in the context of our meeting.
I was actually, it was nice to read this and say, oh, we've done a couple of these things.
That's the key. You definitely want to have a lot of things you can already check off.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure there's a lot, but there were a couple things that we did, which was nice,
Yes.
so.
We hired the town manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was like two things.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
that was important.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you for that assignment.
Yes. All right.
For clarification, AI and I created these notes.
Really?
Yes.
So do you use
The Zoom,
I've used it, it works well. You have
the,
to edit it.
yeah, so we used Zoom to take the notes and then I edited it
Yeah.
to the best of my ability.
But you felt like it was easier, faster?
Oh, much faster.
Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes incorrect, but that doesn't matter.
That's why we reviewed them.
Right.
I've noticed it kind of picks up, it like latches onto an idea and then runs with that idea, even though that idea is irrelevant. Many humans do that too.
I know, I was gonna say, are you talking about me, Athos? Right in front of my face.
Well, that's great. So anyway, please come back with comments to Rob or I. We'll make this into minutes, and in the meantime, we'll present you with specific actionable items. Objectives.
Yeah, the one thing that we did kind of agree to, and I haven't done anything on, was that I think we all agreed that we would rotate on the monthly review of the manifests with Ellen.
Right. That has not happened.
That has not happened,
No.
so is that something that you could just talk to, I mean, I don't wanna go off script, you know, that we're supposed to get comments later, but I think we all agreed that would be good practice to get into, and
We can have Ellen send out a note when they're available, or
Yeah.
I sign off on them now. It's very enlightening.
well, I think,
Opening.
I mean, we all agreed that it would be good for us to, you know, take turns and it's been,
It's helping me frame some policy options for us.
well, it probably would help us all understand things better, and it's probably part of our responsibility, so that would be a good thing if you could send out a sign-up sheet or however Ellen wants to do it. We don't want to make it add to her list of things, but
She might let Tom take the lead on it.
that's fine. Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's good.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts on retreat notes? No? Okay, let's move to business requiring action, the first of which is recommendation to adopt August 6, 2024 Advisory Board of Assessors recommendations. And Joanna, you might have been there.
So I was not there, but I had participated in a couple of these. These were like, we had taken them up in July and needed more information, and so they came back in August. I wasn't able to make the August 6th meeting. I was out of town, so. So, you know, I would move to approve the August 6th abatements as recommended by the Advisory Board of Assessors.
Second. All right.
Can, do we have any information just about like what the $2 million adjustment is? Seems.
So my understanding was that they're not getting the rents that they used to get.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why the abatement was granted. But we could go back and ask.
Yeah, I when I see a large
Yep.
abatement like that, I feel like there are probably other people who also have a question as to like
Yep.
why.
If I recall correctly, Norm alluded to it in the September presentation about some of the non-downtown commercial properties seeing a drop in value. And one of the ways you can appraise, as I understand it, you can appraise property either through straight market conditions or an open book revenue stream analysis. In this case, they went with the open book revenue stream analysis to show that their rents weren't supporting the value.
So what's happened there over time, at least in terms of observations, is that you had a number of large tenants, like tenants who took up half or a third of the floor, and now there are all these smaller offices that they're renting out to individuals because they don't have the big tenants, so they've had to subdivide. So there's more tenants in there, but you're looking at me
Oh,
questioning
it's just
that.
typically when you subdivide and have more tenants, you get more revenue, but not always, obviously. It's curious. It's curious because like the co-op was struggling over there and so a lot of struggling over here.
I mean, to the extent it's an office building, which it kind of is, the whole office sector has struggled,
Yeah,
nationwide, and higher interest rates make commercial real estate typically way less valuable. So there's some logic there.
But there used to be like a big, like Gallagher and Flynn had a big office presence there, and now you go up on the third floor and it's like, a psychiatrist's office, they're like much smaller, but this is just my observation. It's not based on anything related to tax assessor. That would be a long question because I was not there for that one.
got it.
In the future, we can make sure there's some memo explaining it.
Yeah, I think for the larger one, it's just,
It was a really big one.
it's a large number and it's also a large percentage of the valuation.
So the motion's been made, unless you are looking to pull that.
No, you have discussion, you
Yeah.
make a motion,
Yeah.
give a second, do a discussion.
We're in the discussion phase. Yeah, okay, all right. Any other comments before we vote? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This abstain, it just seems odd to me to not have the information when we vote. That's all.
I'll make sure we have that for future requests.
It kind of gets into our role, we discuss this all the time, our role with the advisory board of assessors. We went through this relatively recently. I mean, basically, we must sign off. I'm correct. That is the question.
No, we don't have to as a board. If we don't, we can ask for more information. So
No, I'm sorry. The advisory board of assessors action is not final.
right, the
Until we-
assessors, the
Yeah.
advisory board recommends to the select board. Select board has to finalize it, and if the select board doesn't agree with it, then we can vote no on that as the select board. And so I think it makes sense to have a little more detailed as to why, it dropped, just a few more sentences, because certainly during the Board of Assessors meetings, there's a lot of discussion. It's not
Yeah.
just like because Norm says so. There's always a lot of discussion, so it's there. It's just not here. I mean, the information is available, so.
Okay. Let's move on to review and approval of guidelines for municipal appropriations to social service agencies. This is our second reading of this, and I went through and highlighted a number of the changes. Thank you, Rob. This was responsive to our prior discussion.
I do want to let you know that I took the liberty of sharing this with Dina Romero, and she gave me feedback, and her comments are represented in the comments that I thought were appropriate are represented in here, and she's aware of those changes.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
Rob, I mentioned this last time. Can we just get the original document cited?
Sure.
I'm saying that this is a revision of the original,
You mentioned that last time, and I skipped over it.
and I don't remember the date, 2010 or something like that.
Well,
Did select board members have any comments or reaction to the revision?
I have one question, other than the one question I just asked, so there'll be two questions.
Yes, yep.
See, not just AI goes off on tangent. Guideline basis, that first paragraph there, I'm not quite sure what you mean by only the last sentence, meaning the town can give funds to private organization, only if that organization provides a benefit to the town that we can enforce and ensure. What does enforce and ensure mean?
It's straight out of that case, but we can change that language.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it basically guarantees that we can guarantee that it's a public benefit. But I can change that language.
I remember last meeting, I really liked how clear it was written, but that's kind of opaque.
Antiquated.
Yeah, antiquated, thank you. I'm not sure I want to go out there enforcing anything.
Yeah. I just had two questions. One was, I thought on the second one we agreed to eliminate the word need and shorten that.
Yes.
And then I wasn't sure about the fifth criteria, what that added, or if it was already covered in number 3, which is the services of the agency provides enhanced quality of life in the Hanover community, whereas number 3 is about contributing to the public good.
I agree with you, Jenny.
So,
In fact, 3 is better.
yeah. I was just wondering if we could lose number 5.
Works for me.
Unless it was capturing something that could be missing.
So we have,
And then you just have to change it from 5 to 4 criteria.
right.
Good catch.
So number 2, we're going to strike the word need. Otherwise, provide or pay for. I guess need and 2. And for number 3,
Excuse me, guys, where's need?
number 2. The agency provides a
Okay.
service would otherwise need to. It's going to be would otherwise provide or pay for.
Okay.
We're going to take contribute to the public good and change that to enhance quality of life under number 3.
No, the other way around.
No?
We're just gonna leave
No,
3 and
leave 3
just
and get rid of
delete
5.
5.
Leave 3, delete 5. Okay.
Does that work for you?
Is that okay, Ron?
Yeah.
Is that okay with you, Carrie?
Yeah.
So then there's just 4 criteria they have to meet.
Okay.
So we'll get the revised next on the 4th and adopt it? Or do we need to,
Potentially just say as
Can we
amended.
adopt it
can we just say as
conditionally
amended
with
and
those-
then,
Yeah, as
and,
amended.
cause then we can get it out to them and they have 2 months to review,
Yeah.
6 weeks,
It's all pretty clear.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
What's the motion you wanted? You always write out the motion.
Yeah, it's handy. It's,
I move we accept the guidelines for municipal appropriations to social service agencies as presented and amended.
Second. Jared seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Approval of October 7th, 2024 minutes.
I move,
Any, go ahead.
I move to approve the minutes of October 7th.
Second.
Second.
Jared said, okay. Yeah, right. Jared got there, okay.
He can't say anything, but he raises his hand. I'm gonna get you home to bed, boy.
Are there any comments on the minutes? No. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda consisting of 2 items, the first of which is approval of election volunteers for November 5th, New Hampshire State General Election. Second of which is administrative abatements for 2025 Q1 water sewer bills. Any comments on this, Rob? questions on the part of select board members? Okay. Motion.
Move we approve the items 1 to 2 by consent.
All right, second. Alice. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, terrific. Okay, thank you. We'll move now to select board reports. Start with the man who has no voice.
Great, keep it quick. It's more downtown stuff. I know with the, some of the leadership of UVBA, and we are moving in the direction of, or at least we're going to bring that to the downtown group to become a salt. I also met with the Hanover Improvement Society to update them on what we're up to and just requested their involvement in what we're doing and their leadership as we try and improve Hanover and, to stay involved. That's pretty much what I got.
Thank you.
Went to 3 committee meetings since we last met. Was able to go to a small portion of Hanover Bike Walk, but we'll let Jenny speak on that. Went to Sustainable Hanover's meeting last week, and they've had a lot of, they had a huge success in their window dressers. They had, I don't know, like they finished a day in advance of when they were going to finish. They had over, I think, 100 volunteers. They had a lot of volunteers. Did you do that? Okay.
No, but the word of this program has now spread across the whole Northeast. It's like
It's
an
amazing.
amazing program.
Yep.
That has an outsized impact on reducing energy use.
Right, and
Yeah.
so it's basically they're building frames, like wooden frames with plastic that you attach to keep the energy in your house. And then they actually they go back and redo it after a couple of years of wear and tear. So I mean, and it's super well organized, and it's just very hands-on. People are really engaged in affecting change.
And
which
they
is exciting.
function like very easy to use storm windows
Right.
that you can just put in and put out, and they've thought through all different types of windows.
It's amazing.
And there's like instructables on how to deal with different windows. So, for example, some people have like an air conditioning unit, and originally the assumption was you just take that out. But not everyone can do that very easily. So they need a design that worked with the air conditioning unit. So it both reduces energy costs, like sort of improves the planet as a result. It also has this dramatic improvement on people's individual pocketbooks and their level of comfort in their homes. And it does this sort of deep engagement and getting people involved with taking charge of their, sustainable future.
And then the other thing that we spent surprisingly a lot of time on was water. There's a new member of the committee, and that was her area of interest. She had taken an OSHA course and felt like, she really wanted to focus on water. And, the conversation started, well, we don't really do much with water. And then before, another half an hour went by, and it turns out that, yes, in fact, the town does a lot in terms of water conservation, in terms of resiliency for intense storms, and, cleaning out culverts. And, anyway, a lot of time was spent there. So it was a really good discussion. Still looking for that yard sale coordinator for September, so putting the plug out there, and then and as well as the sustainability coordinator. And Nancy was at the meeting, as was Rob. So I took all kinds of notes, but I brought the wrong notebook. So and then on Sunday, which was yesterday, it was the How board corporation meeting, their annual meeting was held, and it was a really good turnout. They've done a lot of great things this year. Have a teen librarian and a children's librarian, and really doing a lot of work with teens. But one of the interesting takeaways was that teens are really looking to be with other teens and doing stuff. They've had a lot of engagement in some of, like, there's a disco ball spider making this like today or tomorrow, and they had, like, it was all signed up for in the teen group age. You know, it's like, so they've seen since COVID the much more interest in getting together with other young people, which I thought was pretty interesting. And as a result, they're having to do other things. They also have they've created a really nice new teen area downstairs, and so they're doing some good work. The other interesting thing was, you know, the Howe Corporation has 200 members, and there were probably 60 people there on a gorgeous Sunday afternoon, and people stayed and were engaging in trying to figure out how to get more community involvement. And there was a lot of talk about what a unique arrangement we have. The town owns the land, the corporation built the building, the corporation pays for all of the acquisitions, the programming, and any kind of enhancements to the space, and the town takes care of maintenance and staff, and everyone was really intrigued by that. They're like, oh, is that how it works in Etna? And it was like, no. We broke out in small groups and there was discussions, and I said, no, Etna is the town library. Howe Corporation supplements, it's a partnership between the town and the corporation. Really interesting discussion, great staff, great engagement with people. There were probably 12 people on Zoom, which, again, beautiful Sunday afternoon. So good work happening on that front.
Terrific, thank you. I attended 3 meetings also. The Finance Committee met on October 10th. It was primarily focused on schools. Jamie Teague, Budget Director for the schools, was there, talking about their budget process and the outlook for spending. We did talk about electric buses, of which the school is a beneficiary, but the buses will be at a charging station in West Hartford, and the buses are actually essentially under the purview of the vendor, STA. So there was some excitement that, hey, maybe charging stations, town, school, but that's really being done in West Hartford through the vendor, STA. There was a very brief mention at the end, but it's interesting that there is discussion around affordable housing at the Dresden Fields in Norwich. The Dresden Fields are owned by the Dresden District, which is 2/3 Hanover, 1/3 Norwich. This has kind of been kicking around for a long, long time, probably 10 plus years. But there is potentially, Norwich does not have water or sewer hookup. Wilder does. The Dresden Fields are very close to Wilder. There's sort of this dream that would be a place where you could have some density. If you could find a site at the Dresden Athletic Fields that was suitable.
Norwich has water, but just not at that location.
Yeah, it has downtown water.
Downtown water, okay, all right, but no sewer, yep, okay. So that's kicking around as an idea, but we'll see where that goes. And the idea is, I think, primarily for municipal and school employees, teachers, etc. So kind of workforce housing. But I think I'm not sure how much momentum there is there, but it's kicking around as an idea.
Norwich has had a affordable housing committee for many, many years.
Yes.
And I know the other side, they were looking at acquiring the fields across the way that are on the market.
Across the street.
Across the street from.
Oh, yeah, it's a big spot there.
But I had,
Are they talking about like on the fields themselves?
No, I think the fields would be preserved, so the question is kind of where do you fit it? There's a lot of ledge in that site.
And wetlands.
So it's tricky to find
Yeah.
a place, but it's,
And no sidewalks, but it would be cool if that brought in sidewalks too, and then people would get to the farmer's market more easily. You always see kids and their parents
Yes.
It would be,
attempting one time to bike there
Right, one time.
before they stop.
well, there's a lot of housing, like
In Wilder, down.
in Wilder, not like a stone's hop, skip, and a jump next
Yeah.
to Unitarian Universalist Church, and Hobson's a good road to walk on, not a bad road, so it would be awesome to have a multi-use path on Route 5 there.
Yeah.
Nothing like planning for Norwich.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stay focused here.
Wait, yeah.
But two-thirds of the fields are owned by the town of Hanover, right?
Yeah,
essentially.
and well used.
Yep.
There was a call with the municipal, on municipal waste hauling on October 15th. This was put together by Gabrielle Smith of Vital Communities. 22 municipalities send their waste to the landfill in Lebanon, and so there's discussion about recycling, about having joint discussions with vendors. But it really kind of boiled down to in this initial, and really this was Pete Kolbaki was talking for Hanover, but it was very interesting to listen to the call. And I think the next step is really to gather data on contracts that the towns have with vendors and sort of see where all that shakes out, and then also have some discussions around the efficacy of recycling.
Pete has submitted the data already, and we're looking forward to having a robust discussion on this.
Good. I'm going to let Jenny talk about CIPC. I was there too, but Jenny, do you want to talk about it? Let's not cross, let's skip over it.
I got nothing to report.
Okay. All right.
It's coming.
The CIPC, we discussed some of the legacy projects, and a couple of them we are going to revisit, though it sounded like all of them were open to be revisited, but most of them were passed on, in that the CIPC felt comfortable that they were investments that should be made. And then for a couple of them, there's more information that we've been asking for. So coming up will be, I'm forgetting the date, when you gave us, it's pretty soon, when departments will be submitting new projects will be coming to the CIPC.
Anything else? I mean, other committees.
Hanover Bike Walk met, which Joanna alluded to. There was Doug Dion visited, and he wanted to make sure everybody knew about the bike safety class, Saturday, October 26th, 10:30 to 3 p.m. And I think because it's being hosted by Parks and Rec, it'll be on the newsletter, but I think he's hoping the town could also publicize it. Just because this one will be on road as well, and it was really well appreciated when people were able to do it in Westlaw. We had Tom O'Donnell from Dartmouth and Jim Martin from Hanover Police Department come, and we discussed bike and scooter safety. So a lot of talking about what they do to do outreach and help people understand where it's safe to ride. There had been a number of people got hit, including a person on a scooter by a hit and run. So there was sort of an uptick in people who had gotten hit. And then there was also someone on a tricycle that hit a senior after a football game, right by the football game, that has given, that caused her pretty severe injury. and cause her to go to the hospital. So there's like concern all around, and the general question being, where should people ride to be safe? And so a lot of people thinking about that. The college just put out a note saying, we're thinking about this, and everyone remember to be safe. We had a lot of our new members sworn in, and one of them is Rachel Yu from Dartmouth Bikes, and she updated us about Project 529, which is a registration process where anybody can register their bike. And that way, if your bike gets stolen, you can kind of crowdsource finding it. And they partnered actually with Hanover Police, so they are also using the system. So if you know anyone who wants to register the bike, the police have these, they're more secure than stickers, but you put this sticker-like object on your bike, and you enter, the identifying information about your bike, take some pictures, and then you become part of this network. And it's not giving away your identity to anyone, but it helps the police in reuniting people with their bikes. They say it's already cut down on some labor costs. So that's exciting, and Dartmouth Bikes is more aggressively rolling this out now. It's something that a previous member who graduated had set up, and they passed on the reins. Yeah, and that's mostly what happened there.
Okay.
There were like 5 accidents in 2 weeks.
Yeah, there was a period, and that was, there was like an alarming period where a number of people
A bike
walking,
T-boned
bikers,
a bus.
Josh's letter was pretty thorough and aggressive. I mean, aggressive in a good way from my point of view.
The minor issue that he cited that the town prohibits riding on the sidewalk is actually state law.
There's a lot, there's some mushiness in there about like what's law, what's policy, and what's a recommendation.
Yeah.
And there's also like enforcement questions
Yeah,
Sure.
where
I thought it was good overall.
no, it was timely and appropriate.
Just say one more. Yes. Kind of recognition, I guess. I probably should have brought it up while the chief and the deputy were here, but we had maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we had a kid who at Lewis thought he was having an allergic reaction, and so our cashier called 911. It was less than 6 minutes by the time they were in the door treating this kid. It turned out not to be allergies or anything like that, but I was super impressed at how quickly they were able to get there. And we saw during the tour the changes that they've made in the communication center and how they've been able to cut down that time. And it was case in point. It was pretty cool to see. Good job to the Hanover PD.
Thank you.
Sorry, Hanover FD.
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 Okay, right. Thanks for
Our
sharing.
emergency services center.
Yes.
I had one other comment, which is the next select board meeting will be at 4 p.m. on November 4th, the day prior to the election on the 5th. So everyone please remember that. I did have a quick meeting with, it was originally going to be just Bobby, but it turned out that there was a sort of a gathering of the election officials in her office. I guess it was maybe a week ago. And she impressed upon me to impress upon you that they really are looking on the November 5th election, because there is going to be such heightened scrutiny around every aspect of this, that we be very careful to have select board members or their pro tem. So there's a procedure, you need to get a pro tem basically signed up to be in your place there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They really want to have no question about pro tems or select board members there.
I already signed her
Wow.
up. She's my pro temp. I got her first.
What was the process for signing a pro tem?
The process for signing pro tem, I think it's
Basically, I read about this. Basically, the select board member is free to to appoint his or her own pro tem. If he or she does not do that, then the moderator can also appoint one in their absence.
I think Jeremy and Bobby want to maybe know ahead of time, so if you could like
Just email them.
email them and say, look, either I will be there or X will be there
So
instead.
I agree with Bobby on this, in this case, because of the heightened issues, scrutiny. What are they anticipating that we are going to be doing during the election?
So during the actual election, you could be taking
No,
ballots.
presence. The tasks don't matter.
Oh, okay. So they're looking for presence of either you and or your pro tem.
Don't say you, all five of us,
All five of us, yes.
for 18 hours.
Well, yeah, I mean.
7 to 7 and then
7 to
coming
7,
back.
Right, and I think for us personally, because we have to be the actual signatures, that the after 7 p.m.
That's why I said 18
Yes,
hours.
yes, but you can pro tem the first 12 hours, or as much as it is you can.
Well, we don't have to be there when they're counting, we just have to be there to seal the boxes, right? Or does she want us there for counting?
She wants us to have more involvement and oversight of the process. And in fact, Secretary of State Scanlon sent an email, which I can forward to you guys, but you probably got it also. But there is actually a training on boxing, sealing, and storing state I don't know if you necessarily need to see this, but there is a
Link?
teach-in. Yeah.
Can you send that? I didn't get anything.
Yes, be happy to send that around. Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Nancy.
One of the reasons that Nancy Carter, Mayor Hanover, one of the reasons that Bobby's so concerned is that she both assumes that this is happening and then received email confirmation that we are going to get a look from state folks, and this is going to be particularly crucial because they are looking at college towns. We all know why, and they anticipate more observers from both political parties to be, looking over our process. And so one of the things that I think that she's going to ask of you guys is to make sure that our citizen volunteers aren't overwhelmed physically or psychologically by these folks, that you help her, and Betsy McLean's returning for that day, and just to make sure that our volunteers are, kept safe. As I say, some of that may much more be psychological than anything.
Yes, thank you for that, Nancy. And the other, and I'll reach out to Bobby on this, is to have some way to identify select board members or their pro tem, so maybe we can come up with some sort of a color tag. Special hats.
I like the hat idea, but it can't have any kind of political meaning. It can't be like
It could be a loose
a
hat.
Madame Joanna hat.
I like it.
Where's Waldo?
You don't want a hat?
Just orange berets, so they're not blue or red.
There you go. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. I will send around the email. Rob.
It's a good thing we get paid so much.
I know, it sure is. Well, I just got my big paycheck.
Anything else from you?
No, just to let you know, we're working with the school district to give them options about sealing the corridors that they're concerned about. And Ryan spent some time with the original architectural plans of that building space. The gymnasium, as you may recall, was originally designed for a capacity of about 2,100, and it was designed as a safety shelter, but never was formally commissioned as a safety shelter because it didn't have all the other improvements like a generator. So we're working with the school to figure out how they can section off the hallways without impacting the way the school functions. And we think we have a plan going forward that they're working on. So you may see some minor changes that won't impact the elections as they operate, but the school will still be able to use their facility fully.
Great.
That's underway. Everything else is just ticking along. I do want to let you know I met with a faith-based group that's focused on affordable housing by invite by Dina Romero. It was a great meeting, and when it was all said and done, by the time we ticked off all the things we're working on and what we're trying to move forward, they were very excited to see how Hanover is progressing on this. I do want to say that I do have a RFQ on our webpage. I've not pushed it out very well for requests for calls for a workforce housing development consultant, and I'll reinvigorate this effort so that we try to get some quality responses, and an effort to, I might tweak it a little based on what your conversation was with the Dresden fields to see if we can leverage our efforts with the town of Norwich. So that's in the works. Everything else is ticking along. The listening session report should be done by the end of this month.
Great, thank you.
Do we have to go into non-public?
Do we have need for
We're
non-public?
gonna tell the Allen Street thing.
Yes.
For the viewing
Yeah,
public.
it's
Just for the viewing public.
the Allen Street. Oh, the trick or treat.
Yeah.
Trunk or treat is
Trunk or
Friday
treat.
night
Yes.
on Allen Street. So Allen Street will be closed from 4 till 8, and we invite everybody to come downtown to participate in Halloween on Allen Street, and anybody, hopefully will have a great weather and great attendance.
Terrific, thanks. Do we need a non-public?
I don't want one.
No. We're good.
Terrific, all right. Move to adjourn.
I move we, oh no, this is
He
ethics.
moved it, I'm seconding it.
Okay,
All right, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. All right, thank you very much.
thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you, officer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, officer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
So I spoke with Nick earlier, and moving the idea of using Zoom as an option. We'll need some logistical issues. First, my hand. Managing Zoom and participating fully in the meeting does take a little attention, and I would say that it is available through CATV, and there are options on how we can get that accomplished, but that's something we can talk about. I'll work
I
through.
don't want people calling me from Nowheresville. We talked about this before, we were against it.
Well, it was a different board.
I wasn't even bored, but we